Hey everyone, this is Roger from Almost in Full Color. Today I'm going to talk about the Stadia. I actually just got the box for the Stadia today. Uh, and I was going to open it up and kind of do an unboxing while talking here. I haven't played it yet, so we're going to figure that out. But we heard a lot of negative reviews so far, so I'm curious to try it out for my own self and try a different test. I don't know how many tests actually people have been doing, but I'm hoping to be able to provide some more details and see if things clear up maybe during this week. I'm hoping to do a multi-day thing if it needs to be. Maybe it works perfectly fine now. I haven't tried it yet, so we'll figure it out. But what's first up is we have this controller. I like the color scheme so far. It is a little wide looking. As you can tell, it's a lot longer than the Xbox controller. So that's a good comparison there, actually. And the triggers are fine. It doesn't feel bad. It feels awkward because of the length of it. But I think it will be doable. I don't think it will be horrible. So that was interesting. So what is important here is you get your Chromecast Ultra. Maybe this is for the controller, actually. Yeah, the white cable's for the controller. Because you get a Chromecast Ultra, which is really big compared to the normal Chromecast. But what's valuable here is the power supply here has an Ethernet jack in here. And a lot of recommendations for the Stadia is to hardwire it. So that's interesting. That's how they did that, so they can accomplish it. So I'm going to try a test, hopefully hardwired. And then try another test with wireless. They recommend only being like a foot away from your router. And we're going to see if that matters, because my computer here for even streaming and all is probably 2 rooms away from my router. And I get pretty decent performance. So we're going to try that, and we'll come back and see how we liked everything. Alright, what you just saw right there was basically my little unboxing before these 4 days. Now I've done all the tests, and I can go through each of the areas that I tried the game, wired and wireless, and talk about the controller, which we'll do now. The controller, I overall liked it. You could tell they were highly influenced from the PlayStation and Xbox controller. The front of it was the Xbox buttons, and then the triggers were modeled after the PlayStation. It was wider, but the feel did grow on me. I do actually like this controller. The triggers were very similar to the PS4, which I like the Xbox triggers more, but they're not bad. I enjoyed playing games on this controller, and I had a lot of fun with it. This was very unique to me, and it was weird to have a Wi-Fi controller. So overall, I give the controller very high praise, actually. Is it worth the $70 versus the price of other controllers? That's a little steep, but it is a Wi-Fi controller. I don't know there. I did play with the Xbox controller also and enjoyed that experience as well. So I do like that they're being flexible. But if you did want to play on the Chromecast, you need the Stadia controller right now. I don't know if they have plans to integrate anything else. But if you do want to go that approach, I do like the controller. So, like I mentioned, I did 4 days of testing. And I had various results. And I want to go through them probably from my least to the best. And the first up was mobile. So I played here in this room, like I mentioned earlier. It's a little away from my router. And I noticed latency in the controls heavily. So here's what it looks like when on my phone. And here's me trying to play and move around some. And you could see there was some latency here. But for me playing Destiny on mobile, it wasn't bad at all. It was playable. I did very horrible in this because if you look how I had to set up the camera, I was playing very awkwardly on my phone. So I'm a horrible player to begin with, but this made it worse. So don't judge there. But it was a great picture. The quality was pretty good. This was better than the xCloud beta so far. So here's like Gears 5 when I was playing on my phone. And there's a lot more tearing happening and a lot more buffering. So I had a worse experience with that on Stadia. So Stadia did feel built up and actually more of a product than the beta originally had. I did end up moving next to my router, and the latency did drop down a lot more. I still had some that was still noticeable, but not as bad as my room. And this could be due to I was on a Pixel 2 XL, so it's an older phone. But this is another thing of, do you have to be near your router there? Since it's a phone, I do see people moving around a little bit more. The other thing that I didn't really care for much is if you use Stadia controller, you had to plug it in, which on the Pixel 2, I only have one port, so I can't charge. So it's either I buy a splitter or I charge my phone, play the game, charge the phone. But the Xbox controller worked on it as well, and I enjoyed that experience better. The Stadia controller, like I said, I liked it, but until I buy a switcher or something else I can connect the Stadia controller to my phone, I will prefer the Xbox controller over this. But I was able to play Destiny, play some games, and I enjoyed the experience when I got near the router. So, like I said, I had some latency here, but I was still able to play Destiny. Then I moved on to the browser. I think this was the second and fourth day I did the browser and various tests. I tried to get the Google FPS meter to work in Chrome, but for some reason it kept saying I only had 3 frames. And obviously I didn't have 3 frames. I had more. So that didn't really helpful. So I didn't do any frame counters here. But the latency on the controls got a lot better. But they were still subtly noticeable. So here's me playing on the Stadia. And I try to hit the buttons near the mic so you could hear it. And then here's me playing on the PC version. So there is a slight delay, but to me, I didn't find this delay horrible. Again, I'm not a very competitive player, I guess. I enjoy games, and there's some games I do get into a lot. But I was able to still play story, and I enjoyed this a lot. The graphics quality was great. I enjoyed it. The only problems I did have was I had the buffer issue here and there, so you could see a drop in like graphics from like trying to stream to me. But it didn't ruin my experience there. When I went wired, I had an interesting thing to happen. Basically, I would do these skips. Like, I kind of like lost connection to the server style skips. So I don't know what the real cause there was. But a good example was I was entering the cave, and then all of a sudden I just ended up turned around. And you could tell I was very lost, and I saw the banner again and figured out where I was. So that was one time it happened, and then it happened to me in Crucible during this fight. So I kind of lost this just because I lost control. But other than that, counting this was during the first week, I enjoyed this experience. I was able to do really well in Crucible. Here's a decent little kill streak I had going on. So I enjoyed this experience. And the graphics looked pretty well to me. To the PC, when I compared the versions, and I will note I am on a 1080p monitor. So this isn't 4K on the browser or anything like that. The PC did look a little better to me, but it wasn't far off. It wasn't like, oh god, this is horrible. Again, with the buffering issues that would happen a little bit when I was playing wireless, it was hard to compare the graphics there because obviously the graphics did degrade on that time, but I was still able to play Destiny and I was able to play it efficiently. I didn't have too much problems with that. I did play the fighting game only on the browser. It was a slower paced fighting game. It was called Samurai Showdown. But it ran really well. Like, I couldn't even tell latency. I did try it on the mobile a little bit. I didn't record that, but overall, it played really well. I have no complaints on that game. I don't think that was a heavy-paced one. I didn't get Mortal Kombat to try it out. That would probably be a game I would probably prefer to try the fighting game out, but this game worked pretty fine. So I did want to comment that I did play the other game. I just know everything's kind of focused around Destiny, and that is the more heavy game that was free. But overall, my experience on the browser was related to the Assassin's Creed beta. The fighting game felt like it played just like the Assassin's Creed beta that was earlier this year or late last year. Sorry, I can't remember the date. But I did play a video, and here's a little clip of Assassin's Creed. But the fighting game was very compared to this, and the little buffering hiccups I had that I mentioned in this video was what I kind of had on the wireless. But I did see improvement, so that was very good on the browser. The Assassin's Creed, I couldn't tell lag too much. I could only tell it on Destiny a little bit more, but I was still able to play. So I don't think it was as bad as people were making it out to be, but there is a slight delay. The Chromecast. This is where I had my best performance in these 4 days. And this was with wireless and wired. The graphics were great. I thought they looked very comparable. I enjoyed this a lot. Controller latency was, I couldn't even tell barely. Like, I think I had one little hiccup, like I said, and that made it experience weird. But this is because the controller is now using Wi-Fi to connect, and I think that's going directly to the source now instead of going through your browser or mobile. Like on the browser, my keyboard was getting sent up with the same stuff and wasn't a direct connection, I guess. So that you could tell was helping a lot. So I see why the controller has Wi-Fi, and I understand it a lot with the Chromecast. And this is where I enjoyed it the most. I felt this is very comparable to a console experience. I mean, I had a controller, so the graphics were really good, and I enjoyed everything of this. And this is where you'll notice, like, the wonderful Stadia that I didn't really talk about much was switching between these platforms. So I would turn off the browser, jump on the Chromecast to record, and be like right there almost. The game would just start instantly. When you first got Stadia in the Chromecast, you had to claim your game. So you just claimed Destiny, and it started. Unlike what I didn't have Destiny on my PC when I started this week, so I had to go download it from Steam. 3-hour wait. So that was nice, but going again, this is cloud and streaming, so that's expected. Loading times were great. I didn't have any problems with that either. 4K was pretty nice. I didn't have nothing to capture 4K, so I didn't record it, but I did record the kind of crappy side shot video to help show the latency a little bit and to show that I enjoyed this experience a lot. I do understand that the 4K is upscale right now. I don't know if they plan on adjusting that more, but to me, it was wonderful. So the Chromecast, I had a great experience. So let me talk about who this probably isn't quite for yet. Competitive gamers is probably where it is. And I think it's because when you notice lag, it's way more effective than when you do it online. So like if you're a competitive first-person shooter and you hit these like skips I was talking about, or the buffering, so the graphics lost a little bit, you're going to get very frustrated just because it's messing with you. This is different than the normal lag you usually get where you see the character hop around or something like that. So because you're getting a different, I guess, lag for lack of a better term, I can see people getting more frustrated with it, and just you want as much hardware as you can on your own. I think of this as like speedrunners. A lot of people prefer console versus the emulator because it performed better on the console and you're getting the true performance. I kind of see that still happening with all these streaming services coming up, is people are going to want to hold on their hardware if you're into the competitive scene. But overall, I did view this as a late beta, and I enjoyed my experience a lot. Like the mobile was my roughest time, so I probably won't play no more mobile, but the Chromecast version was great. The browser was great. I can hop in a game with someone. Gaines and I are the ones that actually got it from Almost in Full Color, and me and him could probably start a game in like probably not even 30 seconds. He could just call me up. I just go in the URL that I got bookmarked and start up the game and join the party. So I do see that this was a huge improvement from when I played, it was called Google Project, I think, when it was started. But I did see they upgraded it, and I'm sure this will continue to upgrade because that's what's great about the cloud is I don't have a hardware to have to upgrade every year. They'll just do it behind the scenes, and it should get better and better. And I like transferring between different platforms. So browser to mobile to Chromecast. It was seamless to me. So I did enjoy that. Like I said, the major issues I had was just latency on the controller, on the mobile, and on the browser. But the browser wasn't bad. And the Chromecast, I didn't have many issues. And the frame skips happened. But I kind of want to blame my internet because I only had that happen once. And that was during the wired recording. My internet seemed fine. Most of the time I was around like 150, but then I am on a cable and it dropped down to 50 one time, and it was still performant. So it's hard to say like, oh, this is horrible, but this kind of expected. But the Chromecast one now lives in my living room. That's like actually my living room console now is going to be the Chromecast Ultra and Stadia. So I'm excited to see these improvements because I feel like this will improve. And I do see a path forward. Like I said, I know there will be people that say this is probably too early and people trashed it. So yeah, this is where I view that streaming is coming. Like Xbox is looking at it, PlayStation's looking at it. This proved it's possible. Was this probably the cleanest launch? Probably not. It's getting some things there, but I enjoyed my experience a lot. I do compare this to how movies and music worked. So I was a huge music fan, if you didn't know. I used to buy physical CDs all the time. I rarely do that now. But when it first started out, we had like Apple iTunes, and you would buy the physical CD there, and I would fuss because I don't have the booklet, blah, blah, blah. And then it went to streaming, and now I'm just perfectly fine. And that was like movies. Netflix had its up and downs. They had a party feature that they took out, which still aggravates me. But that had its rough moments too. And that's how I view Stadia. Not trying to say like the rough thing and make an excuse for it. It was more like, this was a service. Here's the games we were providing early on. There's no exclusives, but I feel these were kind of good games to pick up and start testing out the service, and they're going to add more. So I feel this is early on, and I do have confidence that eventually we'll be playing streaming games as services, and I can see Xbox moving to this. They're already trying to get into the phones with their beta, so it's coming, and Stadia has opened up my eyes more to enjoy this experience. And this is making the nice alternative to games. Most people have a smartphone now. So now you can either have an Xbox controller or the Stadia controller, and you have a full-fledged console now, pretty much. You can buy AAA titles and play these long games on your phone. Some work still needs to be done there. But for Stadia, like the games I'm looking to get is single player. So I'm looking to get Rise of the Tomb Raider and then probably Shadow once I beat that. Because I feel like this is my use case for it right now. Because as you saw in the controller video, I kind of have all the other consoles, so I'll be getting a lot of exclusives there. I'm a heavy PC gamer still, so a lot of games are going to go to the PC. But these single-player games that I just enjoy, like Assassin's Creed was a great use case for me. Tomb Raider is another one. These are games that are single-player. I would like to just play them anywhere, and that's how I view this as being, is like, oh, I'll just play Tomb Raider maybe on my phone for a little bit and have it on the living room because it's a very visual game, and that will be great. So that's how I view Stadia. I do think it was really good. I know they were having a rough launch and everyone's kind of poking at it. I think once they get a bigger library and people start playing it more, I think there's room for improvement. Hardware is going to get better, and networking is going to get better, and this is going to improve the whole experience. So I do recommend trying it out, especially next year when it becomes free. I know $130 was probably rough to sink into this, but when the free one comes out and they have a deal on a game, I would recommend trying it. And you'll probably be shocked that you enjoy it. Anyways, this was probably one of my lengthier reviews, but thank you, Stadia. I enjoyed this experience. I'm going to be playing Destiny on it for some more. And I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Please like and add comments and see if you agree with me or disagree with me. Anyways, this is Roger signing out. I hope you enjoyed the video.